Welcome to Faith Light, where we uncover the untold truths of the chosen ones. As we walk through life as God's chosen, we often find ourselves walking a path that others cannot follow. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you begin to walk in your divine calling, the world around you reacts in ways you may not expect. Some people will celebrate your growth, while others will retreat or feel left behind. And then there are those who will desperately miss your presence, unable to understand why you no longer feel the same longing for them. When God elevates you, not everyone can breathe at your altitude. In today's video, we'll explore why people miss chosen ones so desperately, while the chosen feel no need to look back. What's behind this dynamic? What does it reveal about God's plan for your life and the new levels you've been called to? Stay tuned for a powerful discussion that will bring clarity and encouragement to your journey. Before we delve in, if you're new to Faith Light, be sure to subscribe. Join this growing family of chosen ones as we explore the divine purpose and walk boldly in our calling. When you are chosen, your entire being undergoes a transformation that most people around you cannot comprehend. This is not merely a change in habits or lifestyle, it's a spiritual elevation. Your energy, your mindset, and even your perception of the world are altered. This shift in frequency is why people miss you. They miss the version of you that resonated with their current state. They are longing for the comfort and familiarity of who you used to be, but that version of you no longer exists. As God elevates you, He sharpens your vision, making it clear who belongs in your journey and who does not. The people who miss you are often those who were aligned with your past self, but cannot connect with the new, elevated you. They may feel a sense of loss, not because you've wronged them, but because they can no longer access the same emotional or spiritual connection they once had with you. For the chosen ones, this transformation is not optional, it is a divine mandate. God's call on your life requires you to leave behind what no longer serves His purpose for you. You can't carry the weight of your old life into your new destiny. While others may struggle to understand this, you realize that your spiritual growth demands separation from anything or anyone that anchors you to the past. This is not to say that you no longer care for those who miss you. The chosen are often filled with love and compassion, but they also understand the necessity of boundaries. You can pray for those who miss you, wishing them peace and clarity, but you must remain focused on your own spiritual journey. The reality is they miss what you represented in their lives, not necessarily who you are now. Ultimately, the chosen are called to a higher standard. The longing others feel for you is a reflection of the light you carried in their lives. But now, that light is shining on a new path, and it's up to them to find their own way forward. God's elevation is never meant to isolate you, but it does require you to move in obedience, even when it means leaving others behind. Outgrowing your comfort zone is an essential part of being chosen. When God calls you to step into your purpose, He often does so by making the familiar uncomfortable. Suddenly, the people, places, and habits that once felt like home begin to feel restrictive. This is because growth cannot happen in the absence of change. For chosen ones, the call to leave the comfort zone isn't merely an option. It's a divine imperative. People who once shared your comfort zone may not understand why you've outgrown it. They miss the version of you who stayed within the boundaries of that shared familiarity. They long for the moments when you were content to remain where they are. But as God works in your life, He stirs a restlessness in your spirit that compels you to move forward. What they perceive as abandonment is, in reality, your obedience to the higher calling placed on your life. This process can be painful for both you and those who are left behind. Relationships built on comfort often lack the depth to survive significant growth. When you begin to change, It disrupts the dynamics of those relationships. They may feel betrayed or confused by your decision to step out of the familiar, not realizing that your transformation isn't about them, it's about God's plan for your life. The truth is, not everyone is meant to join you in your next season. Some people are only part of your story for a chapter. When God calls you out of the comfort zone, He is also preparing you for new relationships, new opportunities, and new blessings that align with your growth. Those who miss you are not necessarily bad people. They simply belong to a version of your life that no longer exists. As you embrace this transition, you'll notice that your perspective shifts. What once seemed like an unbreakable bond may now feel like a weight holding you back. This doesn't mean you lack love or compassion for those who miss you. It means you've chosen obedience over convenience. Staying in the comfort zone may satisfy others, but it stunts your spiritual and personal growth. God's purpose for your life requires you to trust Him, even when it means walking away from the familiar. The people who miss you may not understand your journey, but that's okay. They don't need to. Your responsibility is to follow God's lead and embrace the transformation He is working in you. By outgrowing your comfort zone, you are stepping into the fullness of who He has called you to be. The past has a way of clinging to chosen ones like a shadow. People from your history often reappear, longing for the connection they once had with you. This isn't a coincidence. It's a natural response to the spiritual light you carry. But as a chosen one, you understand that the past no longer defines you. It has shaped you, but it cannot anchor you. When people miss you, they're not missing the real you. They're missing the version of you that existed in their lives. They're drawn to the familiarity and comfort you provided, often without realizing that their attachment is to a memory rather than your present reality. The more you grow, the more apparent this becomes. Their longing for you is a reflection of their inability to move forward, not a sign that you should return. This dynamic can feel like a tug of war. You might feel tempted to revisit old relationships out of nostalgia or guilt, but as a chosen one, you know that your destiny lies ahead, not behind. The connections that are truly meant to remain in your life will evolve with you. They won't require you to diminish yourself or revert to an earlier version of who you were. God often uses this process to teach you discernment. Not everyone who misses you has pure intentions. Some people may long for you out of selfishness, hoping to keep you within the bounds of their comfort zone. Others may miss the role you played in their lives rather than valuing who you are as a person. As a chosen one, you must prayerfully discern which relationships are worth nurturing and which are best left in the past. The Bible teaches us that old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This truth applies not only to your personal transformation, but also to the relationships and connections in your life. When people miss you desperately, it's often because they sense the newness in you, but don't know how to align themselves with it. Moving forward requires courage. It requires a willingness to let go of what no longer serves God's purpose for your life. This doesn't mean you have to forget the past or sever relationships with anger or bitterness. Instead, you release them with love and gratitude, trusting that God will work in their lives just as He is working in yours. Ultimately, the pull of the past is a test of your resolve. Will you cling to what's comfortable, or will you step boldly into the future God has prepared for you? As a chosen one, you know the answer. The call forward is far greater than any longing for what's behind. God's plans for you are too important to allow nostalgia to hold you back. People often miss chosen ones because your absence creates a void they don't know how to fill. The light you carried in their lives is gone, and they feel its loss deeply. What they may not realize is that this void is an opportunity for them to reflect and grow. Sometimes, the chosen one's departure is a necessary catalyst for others to seek their own alignment with God and their purpose. When someone who carried light leaves, the shadows in others' lives become more apparent. This can create discomfort, but it's also a moment of truth. People are forced to confront the areas of their lives that need healing or growth. The longing they feel for you isn't just about you, it's about the recognition that something in their life needs to change. As a chosen one, your role was never to fix their lives for them. It was to shine a light that helped them see their own path. This is why you don't feel the same longing for them. You've already done your part in their journey, whether they realize it or not. Your spiritual elevation means you are no longer tethered to their struggles or their growth. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've fulfilled your role and must now focus on the new assignments God has given you. God often uses the chosen ones to awaken others, but not all awakenings happen immediately. Some people may miss you for years before they understand why your absence was necessary for their growth. As a chosen one, you must trust that God is working in their lives, just as He is working in yours. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning them. It means trusting that God's plan is greater than any human connection. The people who miss you might not understand your detachment, but that's part of their journey. Your absence is not rejection, it's redirection. They must learn to rely on God, not on you, for their sense of purpose and fulfillment. And you, as a chosen one, must remain focused on the path God has set before you, knowing that your obedience will inspire others in ways you may never see. The life of a chosen one is often marked by loneliness, but it's a loneliness filled with purpose. God removes people, places, and situations from your life, not to isolate you, but to prepare you for something greater. This is what I call anointed loneliness. It's a sacred space where you are free from distractions and can hear God's voice more clearly. When people miss you, they may interpret your detachment as coldness or indifference, but in reality, it's a reflection of the peace you've found in God's presence. You don't miss them because your spirit is satisfied. The things of the past no longer hold the same emotional weight because you've placed your trust in God's plan. This divine detachment is both a gift and a responsibility. It allows you to focus on your calling without being weighed down by unnecessary emotional baggage. However, it also requires you to navigate relationships with wisdom and grace. You may love those who miss you, but you must also recognize that their longing is part of their journey, not yours. God often uses this season of anointed loneliness to draw you closer to Him. It's a time of preparation, refinement, and revelation. The people who miss you are often part of the old season, and their absence in your life is a sign that God is moving you into something new. While it may be painful at times, this process is necessary for your growth and for the fulfillment of God's purpose in your life. As chosen ones, you must embrace this loneliness with faith and gratitude. It's not a punishment, it's a preparation. The people who miss you are a reminder of how far you've come and how much God has done in your life. By releasing them, you make room for the new blessings and opportunities that God has in store for you. The relationships that weigh you down are often the hardest to let go of. These are the connections that feel deep and meaningful, but ultimately distract you from God's purpose. As a chosen one, you carry the weight of a divine call, and that weight demands that you travel light. When people miss you, it's often because they feel the loss of the role you played in their lives. Maybe you were their confidant, their encourager, or their source of inspiration. But as God elevates you, He shifts those roles to others, allowing them to grow and seek Him directly. Your absence isn't just a loss for them, it's an opportunity for them to discover new strengths and connections. For you, letting go is an act of faith. It requires trusting that God's plan for your life and theirs is better than anything you could orchestrate on your own. This means releasing relationships that feel comfortable but are no longer aligned with your purpose. It's not about abandoning people, it's about prioritizing obedience to God over attachment to the familiar. As you move forward, you'll begin to see the fruit of this obedience. New opportunities, relationships, and blessings will come into your life, each one perfectly aligned with the path God has set for you. The people who miss you may struggle to understand this, but your peace and clarity will speak volumes. By staying true to your calling, you become a living testimony of God's faithfulness and provision. Releasing these relationships isn't easy, but it's necessary. The people who miss you may always carry a longing for what was, but you must focus on what is and what will be. Trust that God's plan is unfolding exactly as it should, and that every step you take in obedience brings you closer to the destiny He has prepared for you. As chosen ones, you understand that not everyone is meant to walk beside you forever. The path you're on is narrow, and few can travel it with you. This realization can be difficult for those who miss you because they might not understand why they can no longer keep up. They may feel as though they've been left behind, but in truth, their inability to stay connected is not a failure. It's part of God's design. Your journey as a chosen one is deeply personal, shaped by God's unique plan for your life. The narrow road is not a punishment, it's a privilege. It's a road that leads to greater spiritual depth, purpose, and alignment with God's will. But it's also a road that demands sacrifice. Not everyone can endure the challenges and changes that come with walking this path. When people miss you, it's often because they are still standing at a crossroads. They haven't yet made the choice to pursue their own narrow road, and they feel the distance between you as a loss. But as a chosen one, you know that this separation is necessary. You cannot compromise your journey to accommodate others, no matter how much they long for your presence. This doesn't mean you look down on those who can't walk with you. On the contrary, chosen ones are called to love and pray for others, even as they move forward. You recognize that everyone has their own journey, and not all paths intersect forever. The people who miss you may one day find their own narrow road, and when they do, they'll understand why you had to walk yours. For now, your focus must remain on your own journey. The narrow road requires your full attention and commitment. Distractions, even those that come from love and longing, can pull you away from God's purpose. By staying true to your path, you honor God and inspire others to seek their own divine calling. When chosen ones move on, it often triggers a deep reflection in those left behind. Your absence can act as a mirror, forcing them to examine their own lives and choices. This is one of the most profound ways God uses the chosen to awaken others to their own potential and purpose. Your absence creates a void, and in that void, people are faced with questions they may have been avoiding. Why do I feel this loss so deeply? What am I truly longing for? These questions often lead them to realize that it's not you they miss, but the light and growth you represented in their lives. As a chosen one, you don't always get to see the impact of your absence. Sometimes the seeds you plant by moving on don't bear fruit until years later, but trust that God is working behind the scenes. Your decision to obey His call and step into your next season is often the catalyst for others to seek their own transformation. It's important to remember that your journey isn't about pleasing others or staying where it's comfortable. It's about obedience to God. The people who miss you may not understand this, but their lack of understanding doesn't diminish the importance of your calling. By moving forward, you are not abandoning them, you are leading by example. In many cases, the longing others feel for you is a sign that they are ready for change. Your departure creates a space for them to grow, heal, and seek God in a deeper way. While they may not see it as a blessing in the moment, Your obedience is a gift that will ultimately lead them closer to their own purpose. As chosen ones, you carry a heavy responsibility, but you also carry a profound peace. This peace comes from knowing that you are exactly where God wants you to be. The relationships and connections that remain in your life are those that align with His plan, and the ones that fall away are those that were never meant to stay. When you release what no longer serves God's purpose, you make room for what does. This is why you don't miss the people who miss you. Your spirit is at peace, trusting that God is guiding you and them exactly where you need to go. The weight of the call may be heavy, but the joy of obedience far outweighs the cost. Trust in God's plan and know that your obedience is not in vain. The people who miss you will find their own way, and your journey will continue to inspire and impact others in ways you may never fully understand. You don't miss the people who miss you because your spirit is at peace. When you trust God's plan, you release the need to hold on to the past. This doesn't mean you lack compassion or love for those who miss you. On the contrary, your peace comes from knowing that God is in control, not just of your life, but of theirs as well. Peace isn't the absence of longing, it's the presence of trust. You trust that the relationships God removes from your life are no longer aligned with His purpose for you. This trust allows you to move forward without regret, knowing that every step you take is guided by His hand. For chosen ones, peace is a profound marker of spiritual maturity. It signifies that you've let go of the need for validation or approval from others. Your identity is rooted in God, not in human relationships. This is why you don't feel the same desperation that others feel when they long for you. Your heart is anchored in something greater. People who miss you may interpret your peace as indifference, but that's far from the truth. Your detachment isn't about lack of care, it's about focus. You are focused on God's calling, and that focus brings clarity. You understand that looking back only slows you down. By moving forward, you honor God's plan for your life and open the door for new blessings and opportunities. This peace also allows you to pray for those who miss you without being consumed by their longing. You can wish them well, hope for their growth, and even pray for reconciliation if it's God's will. But you don't feel the need to force connections or revisit the past. Your peace is a gift from God, and it's what sustains you as you continue on your journey. Ultimately, the peace you feel is a testament to God's faithfulness. It's a reminder that you are exactly where you're meant to be. The people who miss you may struggle to understand this, but their journey is separate from yours. Trusting God means letting go, and that trust is what allows you to walk forward without hesitation. Your journey as a chosen one is not just about your own growth. It's about fulfilling God's purpose. This purpose often requires you to release relationships, habits, and environments that no longer serve you. While this may feel difficult in the moment, it's an act of faith that leads to greater blessings. People who miss you may not understand why you've moved on, but that's because they're not meant to see the bigger picture. God's plan for your life is uniquely yours, and it's not always something others can comprehend. By letting go of what no longer aligns with His purpose, you create space for new opportunities and relationships that are in harmony with His will. This act of release is not about abandoning others. It's about prioritizing obedience to God. When you let go, you demonstrate your trust in His plan. You show that you are willing to sacrifice comfort and familiarity for the sake of His calling. This obedience is what sets chosen ones apart. As you continue on your journey, you'll begin to see the fruit of your obedience. New doors will open, and new connections will be formed. The people who miss you may feel left behind, but they will also be inspired by your faith and courage. Your willingness to follow God's plan, even when it's difficult, is a powerful testimony that can encourage others to seek their own calling. This process of release and renewal is a continual cycle for chosen ones. Each new season brings its own challenges and opportunities, but the foundation remains the same. Trust in God. By staying focused on His purpose, you ensure that your life remains aligned with His will. The people who miss you may never fully understand why you've moved on, but that's okay. Their journey is between them and God. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to your own calling, knowing that every step you take is part of a greater plan. Chosen ones, your journey is not about clinging to the past or pleasing everyone around you. It's about walking in obedience to God and trusting His plan for your life. When people miss you desperately, it's not your responsibility to hold on to what God has asked you to release. Instead, let them miss you. It's part of their growth, just as moving forward is part of yours. Remember, your absence is not rejection, it's redirection. God is using you as an example, a light, and a catalyst for change in the lives of those around you. Trust that He is working in their lives just as He is working in yours. If this message resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Faith Light and share this video with someone who needs to hear this truth. When God calls you forward, it's never to leave you empty-handed, it's to lead you into abundance. Until next time, keep walking boldly in your purpose and shining your faith light.